what I wanted to do is talk to you tonight about a project that I started a very, very short time ago. It's something that I created a hashtag for, which is very simple. It's 20 for 2020. So hashtag 20 for 2020. It's a senior portrait, a high school senior portrait series that I began. And my goal is to do 20 free senior portrait shoots. I feel really, really badly for a lot of the kids that are never going to walk. They're never going to have senior week. They're not going to be able to do their senior prank. Their schools are shuttered and locked. And the end culmination of all 4 years of their sort of adolescence is going to not have an ending, possibly. And I just feel really sad for them. So they're being robbed of graduation, prom, senior week, all these other things I just mentioned. And so what I want to do is give I'm sitting around, I'm a photographer, assignment photographer. I got nothing to do. And I thought it would be kind of cool to keep working and be creative. And really, honestly, shooting helps me not be crazy about being cooped up and locked down too. So I started doing these. I want to be very, very upfront with all of you about something. I'm using the CDC guidelines. Also, what I'm doing right now in my project may not even be legal in your state or city. It is legal to do what I'm doing right now in Knoxville, Tennessee, but I don't know what it is where you are. So I don't want to say that you should do what I do because you may be in a place where you're literally sheltering in place or even quarantined. So I'm neither of those things right now in Tennessee, but as the cases grow and this thing does what it does, that may change. But anyway, getting back to the project, I just wanted to do something instead of sit around. I wanted to let those creative juices flow. And what I told the kids, I initially talked to parents on Facebook. That's how they found me. I made a Facebook post. That's what started this whole thing, kind of launched it. And then parents, mostly moms, reached out to me and said, gosh, my son is a senior at such and such a high school, and I would love it if you would do this for him. And so I would make that contact through the parents. I also require a parent to come. So it's very important that I'm not with a minor by myself. I would never do that, whether it's COVID-19 or not. So a parent or a legal guardian is always present when I'm shooting. And then the place we go is to their high school. Some of them are locked up with behind bars and chains and stuff. Most are you can get in, but entrances that face major roads are closed, but you can still access parking lots and things like that. So my interest was to put these kids in an environment where they had spent 4 years, use the architecture as a background, look for cool light, and then also try to tell the story of COVID-19 and how their high school, which is normally brimming with activity from probably 5:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night every day, and now there's a few faculty members inside. So pretty interesting. Wasn't really sure how it would go, and that's where I'm at. So what I want to do is just share with you my first 5 shoots. I'm going to show these in the order that I shot them, and I'm just going to use the kids' first names as we go through that. And so the first one is Kirsten. And so I want to put up that picture of Kirsten so you can see what she looks like and go from there. So just bear with me 1 second.
Sorry,
okay,
guys.
So we're back. Sorry about that. No, Greg, he's doing a great thing for me. I really appreciate him. So we figured out the technical issue with the images, so we'll be able to go right to the images now. But just to recap really quickly in two sentences, I started a project that I've hashtagged 20 for 2020. It's shooting 20 free high school senior portrait shoots for the class of 2020 who are going to be robbed of many things, including probably graduation, prom, senior week, senior prank day, all those kinds of things that we all had as kids. This class isn't going to get them. And I feel bad about that. So I saw lots of people doing the family portraits on porches and through windows and Paul Giroux's work. And I wanted to do something but a little different. And I picked this group of people, these young people that are just they're getting sort of robbed of their end of their adolescence, if you will, before they head off to college or go to work. So we're going to start off with the first picture is of Kirsten. This is at Knoxville Catholic High School. One of the things I try to do is to keep in the background elements of the buildings, even though they're deeply out of focus. Any kid that went to Catholic High in the last 20 years would recognize that that's the front of the performing arts area. So that's where the choir and the band are and all that kind of stuff. And the windows, the architecture, the bricks, they would all get it. That was their school. And so what I was doing is I did two things. I had basically two agendas for each shoot. And one was I was firstly working for them to provide them and their family with really nice, beautiful images of them as seniors in high school, representing them as a senior. And but once I knew I had that, all the smiley pictures, I asked them, to kind of think about their situation. And I said, don't feel like you have to smile. And then I got some very interesting and deep kind of looks. And so this is the first image I made of Kirsten there in front of that part of the school. And if you'll change images, Greg. And by the way, both of these pictures are made. That first one was made with a 51.4. Sorry, I think we're doing a slideshow thing now. Oh boy.
It's all right.
Anyway, we're seeing lots of. Okay, it's okay. Okay. So if we go back to that first picture of Kirsten, that would be awesome.
This one.
So this first image, no, the one before the first. Yeah, this is the first image. Just to give you the background technically on what I'm up to, this is shot at a thousandth of a second at 1.4. I pretty much have only used fast primes for this entire project. I really don't much care for zooms. Sometimes you have to use them in sports, but if you're doing portraits, you never have to use a zoom, and I love primes. And so these are typically all wide open with a couple exceptions, but I'm using high-speed sync. I'm using a 500 watt second strobe that has high-speed sync. And this is a very large light bank. It's about 60 inches. I think it's 40 by 60 inches in size. So it's a good size bank. So I'm slamming that in there. And by getting closer to her, I could blow that background out very easily at 1.4 and still keep eyes sharp and things like that. And also, these are all shot with the A7R4, the Sony A7R4, which is really cool because it has IAF automatically. So I'm using tracking wide, and it just finds the face and then it finds the eyes by itself. It's very, very easy to work with when you're shooting portraits. Even in severely backlit situations, it still gives me near perfect focus. So that's the first one so the second one of Kirsten, the next image is her. This is the 135-1.8. This is my absolute, probably most favorite lens for doing portraits. I will shoot a picture with a 50 or an 85. And if there's enough room for me to back up, I'm probably going to shoot it with a 135 as well. I love this lens. It's absolutely stunning. It gives me a sharpness level that is abrupt. It's just a stunner. I mean, if I'm going to show somebody my Sony gear in a portrait situation and they've never tried it before, I'm going to put the 135 on and just shoot whatever. And I'll just hand it to them. So this is shot 135, 1.8 wide open. This is 1,000th at 1.8. And again, this is that same light bank. I've just backed off a little bit. The brick wall is now completely a fuzzball. The school is gone. Like the windows and all that stuff is just history. And I typically keep the light bank so it's almost off frame. So sometimes it's in the frame, sometimes it's out of the frame. And again, just in between looks, not happy smiley. This is like, this girl is, suffering pretty badly from not being able to see her friends in her final months of her senior year. And so anyway, next frame, please. So this next one is, these guys were friends. This is a girl named Annalise. She's a soccer player and very expressive kid. really, really cool. And again, I chose a 51.4 for this. And this is f2.0. And I went to 2.0 because it got really close to her face. And when you get that close, it's very easy to lose focus on one eye. So it's really severely out of focus. And I didn't want that. And so I kind of moved the camera's plane, if you will, to get to very close to, a flat field to both eyes. Just in parallel to those eyes. So I was a little worried about it, and I just went ahead and went to f2 and shot. So just using the sky as a background and then the brick of the school. And so this kind of gave me the look I was looking for. And, I just asked her, I said, just let me make a picture of you of how you feel right now, being alone on campus with no teachers, nobody. I mean, the place was locked down, tighter drum. So this is the look she gave me. So I love the 50. This is shot at 2500th of a second at f2 at 100 ISO. I had to rate, because the sky is now my background instead of the building, I had to raise the shutter speed up really high, which meant I had to kind of pump out more light out of the strobe, but it worked fine. So if we could do the next slide, please. It's funny how I call them slides. They're not really slides, but this is back to Kirsten. This is a picture of her with the statue of St. Patrick behind her. Both of these girls go to the same school, and so they're in the same class. We even kept them apart, so they were like 10 feet apart from each other the whole time we were working, and just in case you're wondering. And this picture is shot with a 50 millimeter f2 at f2, 2500th of a second, and I went all the way down to 50 ISO. Some digital cameras, even still today, don't let you go down from like 200 or 100. It's a great benefit when you're doing HSS work outdoors with fast primes to be able to go all the way to 50. It's great because I'm looking up into bright, the sky and the sun stripping through there. It's extremely bright. It's like basically sunrise at the school. So I really had to have, a lot of go juice out of the strobe for this. This is not shot with a light bank. This is shot with a Fresnel. It's a focusable Fresnel. And I really love the look of that hard light. It's different than what you typically see. And it's really easy to use a Fresnel on a high school age person because they're not wrinkly. They look great. All their skin is pretty good. They don't, look old like me. And so it's very easy to use harder light sources than you maybe typically would on somebody who's in their 40s or 50s. And I really love the look of the Fresnel, and I use a lot. I probably use the Fresnel more than any other light source for the project so far. But I'm just juxtapositioning the St. Patrick statue with this iconic statue on the campus. It's the most famous statue. And then, of course, her. So if you could do the next one, please. This is back to Annalise. As you can tell, I'm kind of moving the two of them around to similar locations. In this case, the same location. Annalise comes from a family that is extremely deep, faithful people, deeply Catholic and Protestant. They're kind of a mixed family, but faith is something that's core to her family. She has three sisters and her mom and dad, and both her mom and dad both have high-end degrees in theology. So I thought it would be appropriate to do her kind of praying or something like that, and that's kind of where this came from. So it's the same exposure as the previous frame, and we can go to the next frame if that's okay. And here's the picture of Kirsten with her little Honda Fit that she bought and paid for with a summer job working 2 years. When she pulled in, she said, I hope you don't mind, I brought my sister's gown from when she graduated a couple of years ago because we haven't gotten ours yet. So the kids didn't even get their cap and gowns yet before the COVID-19 shut everything down. So, but I just thought this is cool to have her in the car in this big old empty parking lot. And this is her space that she pays $50 a year to park in. And I just really liked it. So I just hung the gown on the car, and then I skimmed the Fresnel past the gown onto her in the back of the car. This picture would be absolutely impossible to make without high-speed sync and without a focus light like a Fresnel. I might have been able to pull this off with a grid spot, like a 10-degree grid or something like that, but grid spots typically eat light and Fresnels multiply the light. So the power of your head is increased by the Fresnel. It's more powerful than without having anything. So light banks eat a huge amount of light. The bare head would eat a lot of light because it just doesn't focus the light. When you go to a Fresnel, you're actually multiplying the light and then you're focusing it as well. So that's what I'm doing here. And this is the full power flash. This is all the flash had to get to this point. And so it's very, you can see the sun is just blazing down over the roof line of the building. And but the strobe has no problem getting in there and doing that. But I really like this picture a lot. It really speaks to me about an empty parking lot and this girl with her gown and nowhere to go. Like there's nowhere to walk. So next picture, please. So this is Annalise. She's a huge soccer player. Annalise told me that she moved with her family from Wisconsin to Knoxville when she was 6 or 7 years old. And the very first group of friends that she made were on the Reds soccer team. And she's been playing with the same group of girls since she was 6. And now she's like, graduating high school. She's, 18 years old. So she spent a huge chunk of her life with these girls, and to have their season just instantly stopped, it's kind of a bummer. And so she's wearing her Reds jersey. She also plays for Catholic High on the varsity squad, but for this picture, she felt really strongly about wearing a Reds jersey because it's the girls that are like her family to her. And of course, in the background, you see the entrance to the soccer stadium and the football stadium that's all locked up and it's all gated, and she's outside of it. And so it just seemed like, the sky was cooperating and everything else. So again, this is the Fresnel. I'm lighting up her back and her hair. So a lot of people would have just shot this as a silhouette, but then you'd lose the sort of number thing. And I really wanted that there. So that was the reason for that. So we go to the next picture. This is a picture Kirsten wanted. It wasn't something I would have shot, but it worked out pretty cool. She just said, I'd like a picture of me walking out of the school for the last time in case it's the last time. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And she said, can I bring my gown? And I said, sure. It's one thing for high school kids are very, very creative. They're fresh, and it's very important for us as photographers to be open to their ideas on senior shoots. It's much better to be collaborative than to be ordering somebody around being a Nazi and telling them what to do. It's way, way better to involve them. Now, it can be difficult with like if a mom's there, that can be hard. But you can work through that. You got to push through sometimes. But the kids usually have really great ideas. And if you have an idea that you start shooting and they think, this doesn't feel right, you got to listen to that and stop and just adjust and do something different if it's a pose or whatever. So I'm always listening very closely to the subjects that I'm photographing because that makes me a better photographer if I'm also collaborating with the subject. So if we do the next picture, please. So this is Jonathan. Jonathan is my wife's best friend's niece's boyfriend. So when you throw something on Facebook, people kind of trigger that contact with you. And so what happened is my wife's best friend tagged her sister, whose daughter is dating this guy, Jonathan. Jonathan was a starter on the football team. This is at Gibbs High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a letterman. He's got his jacket on. This is his field. This is Gibbs Field, man. He owns this place. And so when I was driving to school, I tried to get there about 45 minutes early so I can scout and look around. And I got there and I couldn't believe that the gate was open to the stadium. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome, because I was fearful I wouldn't be able to shoot in the football stadium with a football player. But it's kind of cool that the school had left these things open because there's a track around the field. and there's people from the neighborhood that come and walk every day. And as long as they're keeping their distance, again, around here with COVID-19, the CDC guidelines were good. 6 feet, 10 feet away, whatever. So I shot. This is Jonathan there. I did use a light bank for this one. This is a kind of a light bank, and I'm kind of flagging the bank a little bit so it doesn't light up the wall so badly right next to him. But I'm showing the background with the 40-yard line and the C in the middle or the G in the middle and all that stuff. So it was, it was a nice little picture, whatever. And then, of course, the high-speed sync allows me to drop that sky down and get that gray in there. And if you haven't figured out, there are no color pictures in this project. This is straight up black and white, man. I love shooting in black and white. If it were possible for me to never shoot a color picture again, I would do it without hesitation. But when people pay you, you got to kind of give them what they expect. They expect color. So if you can go to the next picture, please. So again, this is Jonathan. I really wanted to plan his letter jacket, his Letterman's jacket. And on this one, it doesn't look lit, but it is. So I've lit up the back where it says Gibbs. And I use the Fresnel again. So you can wind out the Fresnel all the way to the end, which makes it super, super focused, and it's really tiny little spot. And this allows me to move the light away from the subject to a pretty good distance, but then still aim it and hit him in the back and light up that logo on the back of the jacket. And so that was the point here. If I didn't do that, I could not make the sky look like it does, because I wouldn't be able to underexpose the sky to that extent, because I wouldn't be able to see Gibbs on the jacket. It'd be really light and you could barely see it. So again, high-speed sync is your friend. It's killer. It's so versatile. It just allows you to do crazy stuff with fast primes outdoors. And by the way, this is the 24 millimeter G Master lens. This is at 1.4 wide open. Even though I'm far away from him, if you look at his back and you see the sharpness there, and then you look just beyond him, even on the concrete where his feet are, it's out of focus. And by the time you get to the field, it's fuzzy. And this is a big thing about these fast primes. You can, the 3 rules of depth of field in order of importance or in order of effect are subject to camera distance, focal length, and finally the speed of the lens. And so when you combine a super fast lens and you get close, it really gives you a beautiful effect. And I love working with a 24 G Master lens. It's not a lens I would have ever used before they made it, especially for environmental portraits like this. But I love it. And I reach for it a lot. It's really cool. So this is 1/6400th at 1.8. And 24 millimeter G Master lens. So if we go to the next picture, please. So Jonathan's girlfriend is a really sweet girl who I photographed before. And she really wanted to have some pictures made with Jonathan. Now, I want to be upfront with you guys. This is not COVID. Like, they're not 6 feet away from each other, but they spend a lot of time together virtually every day. And they're very careful. They go to each other's homes and stuff, and they had been doing that before the coronavirus hit. So both of their mothers and their dads know what's going on, and this is not a surprise to them. So I just want to be upfront with you. Both moms told me in advance they wanted pictures of their son and daughter with the other. And so I was like, okay, if the moms and dads are saying that, that's good with me. And once again, I'm just doing the same kind of thing. We put the letter jacket on her because she's tiny and petite, and he's like 6 foot something and big with boots on, and they're kind of cute couple. But this picture is haunting. I mean, even though I shot it, I was there. It's just sad because you see the sense of loss in the image, and that's kind of what I was going after. Football games, Friday Night Lights is everything at a small high school. In a small town. And even though they got their season finished, it's still, the football field and the stadium is a touchstone forever. Until they tear this place down, every kid that went to that school that's a senior this year will graduate and remember that they if they have a connection with this place. And so the environment of the high school is a rich, target rich environment. And I found it really easy to make pretty beautiful pictures very simply and quickly. So, and if we can do the next picture, please. So I asked Jonathan when we were up high doing those pictures up there, I said, Jonathan, if I had to tell you, like if I pushed you on that and I asked you for the most important play of your entire career playing football at Gibbs, what would it be? And Jonathan said, well, it was probably about the 15-yard line. And we were going up and we were playing this other, it was called Central High School. And they were like going to state and they were 10-2 and they were beating everybody in the whole region. And we beat them, and we beat them badly, and we got the ball at the end, and we downed the ball 3 times. We just hit a knee, and there was nothing they could do about it. He said, when I look back at high school, I'm not going to look back and remember that we won state because we didn't, but I remember beating a Central High School when they were unbeatable. And so I took him out to the 15-yard line, and I said, where about do you think you were? He said, about here. And I said, well, just go ahead and kneel down. And so this is the direction he was facing with his teammates. And this is, again, this is a 35 millimeter 1.8 FE lens on the A7R4. And this is wide open at 1.8. This is 5,000th of a second is the shutter speed. And I'm using the Fresnel again. Love the Fresnel. I'm so sick about that. I love that light. It lets me do things that I can't do with a light bank, like be far away and still illuminate a subject from a distance and get that punch I want. And again, that gray sky, it was really a white sky, but I've underexposed it just like I used to with chrome. And that's how you get that look. And you can see the shadow under his chin. You can see the shadow there. It's very sharp and hard light. I love doing that. That's the thing about a Fresnel that's kind of cool. Like if you use a grid spot, even a 10-degree grid with even a reducing ring, it's going to be super hard edged light. But the Fresnel gives me the ability to be soft edge, and it's a very nice way to work. Let's go to the next picture, please. So this is his girlfriend again, and there were these beautiful like flowers in this courtyard area at the high school, and there were like these kind of picnic tables, and I think it's where seniors can go outside and eat when they want to, and that's where I took Ashley, and she's a beautiful girl. Like I said, I've photographed her before testing lenses for Sony, and I was like, yeah, anytime you get to shoot Ashley, it's a good day. And her hair was blowing everywhere, and she was worried about that. And I just told her, don't worry about it. Just let it go. And sometimes having hair in front of a face can have a very natural look because the wind blows. It was very windy that day. And so I got these blooming flowers in the background, but it's blown out because this is, again, the 135. This is the 135 at 1.8. I'm at 2,500th of a second because the background is not the sky. It's like trees and shadow, and then these flowers that are lit up. So it was really Ashley and then the flowers. And even though they were yellow and it would have been a nice color picture, the black and white just speaks to me. And her look and her countenance, the way she's holding herself, it's sad. And, I feel bad for these kids. So, and believe me, there's like really lots of pictures of them smiling too. So I get their moms nice pictures and they have stuff for Facebook or whatever. Well, they're not on Facebook, they're elsewhere, but you get the idea. Next picture, please. This is Malia at Central High School, at Powell High School. This is very close to where I live. And Malia is like this super bubbly girl, laughing all the time. And but Powell is like built, I'm guessing it was probably in the 60s, either late 50s or the 60s, and had kind of a modern look. And they'd built out all these like weird things without ceilings outside. It's kind of these big squares. And again, I'm using the architecture of the high school in the background because anybody that went to Powell High School would recognize immediately this is the main entrance to the school. And that's really important. I'm placing these people in very specific locations that are recognizable immediately to any alumni that are from the school. But she was great. We did these twirling things. She was wearing this really vivid blue dress with the flowers on it. And I had her spinning and spinning and spinning, and she's laughing. And we made some nice pictures of that. And then I said, okay, let's stop and be quiet. And I needed to use the one light because I was looking straight up now. It's like very bright, super bright. It was like right around noon or 12:30 in the afternoon. And so what I had to do is actually had to set up another light on a stand. And this is a big light bank. And then I just tucked that light, the front of it, into underneath the front panel of that softbox. So now I have 1,000 watt seconds of HSS light to be able to overcome the sky and get the sky down. If I hadn't done that, the sky would not look like this, and it just wouldn't have balanced out. So again, HSS is like my friend. I remember shooting outdoor portraits for Sports Illustrated many times with a Hasselblad and a leaf shutter lens. But when I look back on that now, it was only one more stop of shutter speed. Like back then we could shoot at 500th of a second with a leaf shutter and the lenses, and we could knock that, just a stop is a huge amount. But now with high speed sync, we can go up to 8,000th of a second shutter speed. It's crazy. It's crazy cool. So being able to shoot these super fast primes wide open is pretty cool. And that last image is shot with a 35-1.8 at 4,000th of a second with 1,000 watt seconds of strobe power. So sometimes I want to say this too. I know everybody out there uses Godox 8200s. You cannot do this with an 8200. It's an impossibility. The thing just it's a pea shooter. And I love using what I call real lights. And so in order to make this image with 8200s, you'd probably need probably 6 or 8 of them, maybe even more, maybe 10 or 12 of them to get this kind of output. So the 8200 is cool. And I hate to say it, but for really lazy photographers, it is a great tool, and it's a very lightweight thing in your kit, but you cannot make this kind of a portrait. It's impossible to do these kinds of portraits, especially at this time of day, unless you have real power. And so I use the 8200. I own one, but I use it when I have to, but I don't prefer it. I prefer these. So the next picture of Malia is just a different pose, but it's very different. It's the same exact exposure, I think. It's 6,400th of a second at 1.8, and this is at 100 ISO, and this is a 35-1.8 wide open. Just a different look, different, quieter look. I don't know. I'm trying to decide which one. Maybe you can tell me in the comments which one you like better, because I'm having difficulty deciding, so let me know what you think. And if you can go to the next picture, Greg, I'd appreciate it. This is Malia kind of in her, she's going to college, and she's got a full scholarship to Tennessee Wesleyan to play soccer. So she's an athlete, and she's really pumped about going, but she's also sad about leaving her high school in the way that she had to. And while it's remotely possible that they could go back and finish out the year, even if they went back around when the president said at this date, he said April 30th, they would only have 2 weeks of school, and then one of those weeks would be senior week, so they wouldn't even be there. So I just don't think it's realistic for these kids to get to go graduate or walk in the traditional manner. I'm hoping something can be done where they might be able to do something for them at a later date, but if it's too late in the summer, they're going to be reporting to college if they get to report to college. And that's the great unknown about COVID-19. We just don't know where it's going, and it's very frustrating for everybody and scary. So, but I love this picture. It was really nice because there's a little tiny section in the football stadium that is slightly elevated with some low bleachers outdoors, and we were able to get above the field level and then see, back to the original stadium, the home seating, where she would have sat all those games, and then the sky just cooperated, man. This is awesome. So this is all the way at, this is 50 ISO. This is the extreme of HSS right here. This picture says it all, and the exposure tells the story. This is a 24 G Master at 1.4 wide open, 50 ISO at 8,000th of a second. So I could not have opened the lens up anymore. I could not have gone up any more in shutter speed. and I can't drop the ISO any further down. This is it. This is like the limit of what's possible with a high-speed sync right now. And I want to say, in film, this would have been just about impossible to make. The only way to duplicate this picture without high-speed sync would be with heavy, heavy neutral density filtration on the lens. But here's the problem. You still have to equal the light of the sun, which would mean probably 5 to 10,000 watt seconds of strobe power to illuminate her like this. I'm just glad those days are over, because I used to do that. I shot a picture of Hank Aaron once at home plate at Turner Field and used two 2,000 watt second power packs at full power, so 4,000 watt seconds into a Fresnel to light him up at home plate. And it was we kept blowing the circuit, but it did work.
Patrick, let me just jump in here with a question
Yeah,
real
please.
quick.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to this image. So you said you're shooting this at an 8,000th of a second at high-speed
Yeah.
sync. So are you shooting mechanical shutter or electronic shutter? Because I've heard some
That's
folks
a great
say that when
question.
they're shooting an electronic shutter at super high shutter speeds, that they see some banding in the images.
Well, actually, that's sort of true, but I have seen in the past, I have seen banding in mechanical shutter images at 8,000th of a second with Sony cameras. I did a portrait series down in Haiti 2 years ago exactly with the A7R, I think it was the A7R3. And when I went all the way to 8,000th, I would get banding using Godox. That was actually a Godox 8200. There have been some firmware updates with Sony, and I no longer see that anymore. So this is a great example of no banding. There's nothing there. So, but I know what you're talking about, Greg, and I have seen that in the past, but I think that is something that, at least with the A9 II and the A7R4, it's in the rear view, thank God. So, because there were issues with, and I don't know, I'm being honest, I don't know if there were issues with Sony flashes, their proprietary flashes, but they're pretty expensive and I don't use them. I use Godox speedlights, I'll be honest. And but I'm not sure, but I no longer have any barrier to high-speed sync at 8,000, because it used to be sometimes you couldn't even shoot 6400th of a second. There'd be banding there or slightly. When you went to 8, it was really bad, but now it's gone. So I'm really happy that that's the case. Good question.
And I don't want to throw you off, but what about
No.
electronic first curtain shutter? Can you describe a little bit about what that is and whether you turn that on or off, or whether you ever futz with it at all?
You know, I'm set to front curtain always, and because I shoot so much strobe, I always leave it there. There's also, and I'll be honest, it's a good question, and you might want to answer the question after I answer my part, because the answer is I leave it alone. I really don't change it, to be honest. But I know that there's a different look with the background when you change it from front to rear, but I leave it on front all the time. So tell me about your experience, Greg. I'd be interested to hear that.
Well, it's one of those things. I just never futz with it. So I seem to hear a lot of misinformation about it. There's a lot of misinformation, I think, out on the web about it. And but it's just one of those things that I have never bothered to change or futz with in my cameras, and I've never really had an issue. So,
Brother, if you're not having a problem with it, I'm feeling better. That's awesome. I'd be curious to see if there's any questions out there. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys out there on YouTube, if you have any questions, please post them in the comments.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good about, it may not be that day, but if you ask me a question in a couple days or less, I will get back and answer. So feel free to ask me about technical stuff or whatever. But I just want to kind of reiterate all the equipment I use for this project, and I'm going to continue using, is the 24G Master, the 35 1.8 Sony lens, the 50-1.4 Zeiss Sony lens, and the 135 1.8 G Master lens, and the A7R4 is what I use. And I'm actually using Dynalite B5 lights. I know they went out of business, but they're basically effectively relabeled Rimelight units from Korea, and I love them. I think they're great. But I like the Westcott FJ400 too, but I can't get those guys to call me back. So hey, Westcott, if you're out there, I'm kind of interested in testing that light. I'd like to see what it's like, and maybe I'd like it better than what I'm using. So shout out to you guys. But yeah.
So you have a question from Alan David asking about if there's a shelter in place order in Knoxville.
Yeah, it's different here. We are not under the same stringent rules. We probably should be, honestly, but we're not like there are in other cities. I think Nashville is even worse than us right now. We're also not a huge hotbed of cases. So, but I'm not sure. Like, and I'm not an expert on COVID-19, but um, all I can tell you, Alan, is that I really, even though the guidelines say 6 feet, I try to be 10 feet away from the kids. And it's hard because sometimes when they talk to you, they walk towards you and I back up. And also, I should also point out that there's a young girl who's also a senior in high school from Sevier County High School. Her name is Chloe. And Chloe's been helping me on these shoots, and Chloe's got pockets full of hand sanitizer. She's really cool. And so we, wash our hands all the time and are doing that as we go. But she really wants to be a photographer, and she's getting ready to go to school and hopes she's going to be going to University of Tennessee. And she's hoping to shoot pictures there as a student. And so I'm kind of teaching her how I'm doing all this stuff so she might try and experiment herself. So Chloe, I really appreciate you helping me out.
Patrick, there's another question about the Fresnel. What type of Fresnel is it?
Yeah. So Fresnels used to be really expensive. They were terrifyingly expensive. The first Fresnel I ever bought was an Elinchrom Fresnel. It's all metal. It was this huge box. It was like a big old, I think it was a 12-inch Fresnel. And I think that thing was like $1,600. And then it didn't even have a light in it. You had to take a monoblock and put it on the back. Um, Now Fresnels are made of plastic in China, and they're really cool. And the one that I have been using is called Nanyang, but it's very small and it's S mount, so it'll go on anything with that Bowen's S mount universal connector. But the one that I've been using lately is made by it's I bought it from Adorama under the Clar brand, CLAR, and they had a deal on that thing. It was so cheap. I think it was like $35. But I think the normal price of the thing is about $70. I think that's what I paid for mine. And it's about this big around and it's about that deep when it's closed. But if you zoom it all the way out, it'll get to be about this long. And when you go all the way out like that, when it's in, it's wash. And when it's out all the way, it's spot. And I mean, to give you just an idea about what it looks like, if you were, say, 10 feet away from a white wall inside, and you shot this thing at a wall all the way out in zoom and spot, it would probably be like probably a 10-inch circle from that distance. So it's probably a little tighter than that. It's probably 6-inch circle at 10 feet. So it's pretty cool. I love Fresnel. So yeah, if you just get on like whatever your website, like whatever, wherever you buy your camera gear from, if you go to that website and just put in Fresnel, and it's spelled Fresnel. It's a French word, so it's got a weird spelling, but Fresnel is how you say it actually. But it's a beautiful way to adapt. Sometimes people don't like the way strobes look. It's too cold and it's too exacting, maybe too powerful. And Fresnels take the edge off that look, and it gives you more organic look, and it's more like the sun actually. So I hope that answers your question about the Fresnel.
So Alan was asking about a photo. I can't tell if it's a Photo 4 Easy or a Photo Easy 10X Studio Light focus mount. Are you familiar with that as a
Nope.
Fresnel? No.
I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't have a clue. But there are lots of Fresnels available now, especially in that S mount. So if you just go on Amazon or whatever and type in, whatever, and I'll tell you what I'll do in the comments, I will put the link for what I'm using in the comments myself, and you'll be able to find that. I'll do that tonight after we finish the stream.
So any of you guys out there on YouTube, any more questions that you guys have for Pat? post them in the comments. That's where we get them from.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I think we're wrapping up here. I just want to, again, I appreciate Greg Gibson so much. He's become overnight like a live stream expert. And even though he had a little trouble, he's amazing what he's able to do with this stuff. He's Mr. Wizard, Mr. Big Brain. So thank you for your help, Greg. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody's ever described me as having a big brain before, Pat.
Well, I didn't
That's a
ask your
new one.
wife. If you have a smaller brain than yours, it's a big brain that you have. So that's me. So, yeah. But I really appreciate it.
No problem. All right, thanks, guys. We're gonna close this out. Pat, you have any parting
Hey,
words?
I do. Here's my parting words. The idea for this and the reason why I created the hashtag 20 for 2020 is actually a challenge to you. Um, you're doing nothing right now. You should go out and shoot these pictures. It's great. The kids are awesome. It's better to make photographs to have to show during this epidemic if you're able to and if it's legal, than to sit at home and fret. I don't. I'm not slighting in any way anyone that's really truly hunkering down and with their danger in their city or whatever. But I think it just makes me feel better to get outside. But I would challenge any photographer, even when we emerge from the virus and we hopefully we get on the other end of this thing. These seniors really they didn't do anything wrong, and so much has been taken from them in their experience of life. You could help them feel a little bit better about that and their families too by volunteering your own 20 shoots for free. And just if you do it, just put your pictures wherever you want on Instagram or wherever. Just put hashtag 20 for 2020 and it'll kind of pay it forward a little bit more. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys.